Thanks for joining us again. This is the Word for the Valley podcast, and we're listening to Pastor Mike teach in depth through the book of Matthew. And in part 2, Pastor Mike clarifies that God is a good Father who provides for our needs rather than our demands. He goes on to explain that when we continue to ask, seek, and knock, the Lord responds with His knowledge of what is best. And if we can surrender to the Lord in this way, we'll learn to be content regardless of the circumstances. Let's jump back in with Pastor Mike as he picks up in chapter 7, verse 9.
He says, or what man is there among you? Now the counterexample he uses in verse 9. What man is there among you who, if his son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will he give him a serpent? Now there are some dads, they think they're funny, right? And they like playing little pranks on their kids, especially when the kids are little and don't understand what's going on, right? And you just need to be careful because that little kid will be a big kid someday. And when you say, hey, could you give me this or bring that over here, help me out with this, they'll play a prank too. And you might, kind of what goes around can come around, kind of just be careful, right? He says, earthly fathers, if they do this, he says, that's not in any way good. If you have a legitimate need, right, just want bread, kind of trick them with a stone, want a fish, you trick them with a serpent. He says even most earthly fathers will try to do the right thing and bless their families and their kids in the right way. So he says, then if you then being evil, even good dads who won't give stones for bread or serpents for fish, even good dads, he says, are evil. But he says, if you then being evil know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your heavenly Father, your Father who's in heaven, give good things to those who ask him? The remarkable thing about the Lord is that when he distributes, when he answers, he does it with his knowledge of what's best. So if you're asking God for something and you're not getting it, it's out of his understanding that you not having it is better than you having it. And that's why we come to the Lord. We come to him surrendered. Say, Lord, this is what I think and this is what I see, and I'm going to ask, right? I mean, give us this day our daily bread. I think I need daily bread today. Or daily steak or daily pizza. Or something, right? Daily Chinese food is pretty nice. As long as it's not too daily, I guess, maybe. But, kind of thing. And so there's a limit on how many days you can do that. And, you come to the Lord and say, this is but Lord, supernaturally override it. You give me what you know I need. Right? I love that passage. I'm going to actually turn there. It's been striking me recently. In Philippians chapter 4, Paul says, but I rejoiced in the Lord greatly that now at last your care for me has flourished again. Though you surely did care, but you lacked opportunity. Not that I speak in regard to need now, for I have learned in whatever state I am to be content. He's telling the Philippian church, I finally got your financial support, and I'm thankful for it. He said, but it's really okay whether you sent it or not, right? Paul wouldn't be that great of a fundraiser. I really appreciate the money you sent, but if you didn't send it, I'd be just fine, right? Okay, then test that out too. We'll see how that goes, kind of thing, right? But there's a greater principle by far. He says, I'm not speaking in regards to need. What he says is, I have learned in whatever state I am to be content. And what strikes me in that is, this is not an inherent knowledge Paul just got because he's saved. This is something he had to learn, and he had to learn it by experience. He says, I know how to be abased and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I have learned both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. By the way, that's the context for that verse. I know we're in football season and we're going to start seeing Philippians 4:13 on people's eye black and stuff, kind of thing. But what he's talking about there is he's talking about the ability to live, no matter what's going on, to live content. Whether you have a lot or you have a little, right? And to learn to be okay with that. Why would Paul be okay with that? Because his life was surrendered to the Lord. Ultimately, if God didn't want him to have much, he wasn't going to have much. And ultimately, if God wanted to bless him, then God was going to bless him. Ultimately, it was between him and God. It wasn't a matter necessarily what I want, and this is not working out, and the market's wrong, and this is, those things were not the primary evaluation of his life. It ultimately was between him and God. And he lived that way, and he enjoyed it. Actually learned to be content there. And so when we come to the Lord in prayer, that's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about. Not making demands, not making lists. Right? I have 2 children in college now. And we try to keep in contact by text until we want to talk, and then we talk, and then if we need to, we'll make a visit, right? Just kind of depending on kind of what's going down in their lives. We try to stay in touch through text, right? Yesterday, I sent Evan a text, and he's out in Pittsburgh, and he worked a double shift yesterday. Saturday, he worked his 16 hours in the nursing home, and on Saturday. And I thought it was only a 12, so I texted him at the time that I thought he was going to be getting off work, and then he said, "No, I got 2 more hours to go." I'm like, "Oops." And just chat, how you doing? What's going on? I hope you're okay. I hope you make the drive back from, it's an hour drive back from the place of employment back to his apartment in Pittsburgh. I hope you do okay, kind of thing. And he said, "Dad, it's a long day, but I'm doing okay." He said, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, "Jolie, look." He likes me. Wow. Oh, how you doing? Right now I'm doing great. I'm gonna cry. I'm just so good, right? Now listen, that took 2 years of college to get to that spot. I think we all know as parents the laundry list of things that we are doing wrong, the things we need to provide, things the kids need next, right? And somehow or another, they think it's Christmas all year round, right? Some kids do think that money grows on trees. They just think the tree looks like an ATM. And, hey, we need more. Let's go get some. Hey, more money. That's a good thing. Just kind of do that. And place that expectation on their parents, and the parent only then becomes a provider, not a relator. Right? Do we treat God like that? Do we relate to God? Do we spend time with God just for God's sake? Hey, I just want to hang with you, God. Hey, what do you need now? Right? Can you imagine God? Hey, what do you need now? If every time you go to the Lord or somebody else, and their first reaction is like, "Whoa, what do you need now?" Like, it might be a sign that you are turned into some form of a beggar. Right? Hey, how can I help you? What do you need? What can I do for you? Right? How you doing, Dad? How you doing, Dad? Right? Those are the prayers God answers. What do you think on this, Lord? How does this make you feel? Does this please you? Is this really what you want? Can I do something better? Is there another way to do this that would please you? Rather than, hey, I want more of this, and how can I get some more of that? Totally different way of relating, right? Now, the beauty of the Lord is he meets all of that out. If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? He doesn't just give us what we want when we demand it, because he knows that actually wouldn't be good for us. As any parent, if you give your kids, okay, this is parenting 101, right? Sometimes you actually have to help a parent here a little bit, right? Parenting 101. No. Practice. Look in the mirror. No. Right? Say no. Right? If you say yes to every request, you will make them into a monster. And God will not do that to us. He will not just give us everything we demand and turn us into some type of selfish child. Right? He won't do it. He gives us good things at his understanding, in his timing, in his way, right? Even to make Paul be abased, and other times to make Paul abound. Right? Times where Paul had more money than he knew what to do with. Right? Other times he literally didn't know where dinner was going to come from. And to be okay in both seasons as the Lord led that out. Now, he says now in verse 12, therefore, Whatever you want men to do to you, do also to them. For this is the law and the prophets. Now, this builds on what he's been talking about and how we relate to others, our judgmental attitude, our condemning nature, these kinds of things. Don't do that, right? Evaluate properly. Pull the beam out of your own eye so you can actually help other people in their lives, right? To evaluate the difference between dogs and pigs and these kinds of things, to be able to treat people in the proper recourse. Come to the Lord. Make sure that your relationship with God is all filled up. So now that in life that you can actually do to others as you would have them do unto you, which is the golden rule of Jesus Christ, the golden rule of the Scriptures, and really kind of boils it all down in some ways, right? Whatever you want men, whatever you want, look, if you wish somebody to do this for you, then you should probably just go do it for them. Whatever you want men to do for you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets. Now, some people make the mistaken connection to Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, that uses this thing in the negative. That says, well, if you don't want them to do it to you, then you shouldn't do it to them, right? This is what you do with your little kids. Right? You don't want them to pull your hair. You don't pull their hair, right? I mean, he's teaching, and it's true, it's right, but it doesn't go as far as Jesus goes. He doesn't just say, don't do to them if you don't want it done to you. He actually says, that last thing that you were thinking about that you thought you needed, why don't you go do that for somebody else? Right? Which completely flips the way we think about our lives most of the time, does it not? Again, if I got $10 in my pocket, I'm thinking about how to spend it. And usually that means me, right? Usually I'm going to eat it, by the way. Kind of, that's the first thing, right? In some burger or milkshake or something, right? I got $10. I can splurge. Hey, we're going out, right? Why don't you do that for somebody else? You got $10, you give that $10. Bless somebody. Give, serve. Now, how can you do that, right? The only way that you can do that is if you're properly receiving vertically so that you can distribute horizontally. Because if you live like that very long and you're not receiving this way from the Lord, then you're going to run out of steam really fast on the horizontal. The only way that you can fulfill this is if you properly maintain the relationship that God wants you to maintain by asking, seeking, knocking from Him on a regular basis so that He can give you what you need so that you can be a blessing to other people. I think by and large, if you made the goal of your life to bless other people, you're going to find resources come into your life that you didn't even know existed. This is not about you and your kingdom and your world and your stuff. This is ultimately about the Lord and what He wants to do through your life for other people. And you'll find like stuff will start coming. You're like, oh, I don't even know what to do with this. Well, keep doing what you've been doing. Give it away. Serve it. Bless it. Help it. Go to where it needs to go. If we live more selflessly, right, then resources can flow more freely. And so here, whatever you want men to do to you, do also to them. This is the law and the prophets. Now, the last two things for us here this morning, enter by the narrow gate. Now, he's coming to the end of the sermon, right? And with that, there's some exhortations of like, okay, now you've heard all this stuff. You have to act on it. It is not enough for us to know the Sermon on the Mount if we don't live the Sermon on the Mount. It's not enough to know, what's the difference between judging and discerning and these kind, it's not enough for us to know all of the lines and all of the answers and all of the definitions if we don't actually do it. It will make no difference to us. So he says to us, look, enter by the narrow gate. It's literally an imperative, enter now, or you must enter by the narrow gate. This is not a recommendation. This is Jesus saying, come on now, get into it. Come, get to the narrow gate. Enter by the narrow gate, he says. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way, broad way, leads to destruction, and there are many who go in by it. Kyle made the point before we came out. It does seem as if in some ways the broad way is getting broader, and probably true to some degree, right? And true largely because the church is making the way broader than the church has ever made it before. The world's always made the way broad, right? Well, all roads lead to God, right? All roads lead to heaven, right? Just be sincere, right? Be kind, do something nice, right? That time that you really thought you should kick the dog, you didn't kick the dog, you probably merited heaven, right? You deserve to get into heaven for not hurting your puppy or something kind of thing. Like the whole, whatever, really broad way, right? But it's a danger when the church, who supposedly has the truth, surrenders the truth to the perspective of the world and makes it all very broad. It's the danger of this, right? It is true in some ways that every road leads to God. In this fact, in this way, every single life in this room, at some point in the future, will stand face to face with a holy God. The holy God, the maker of heaven and earth, the God that we are described, that gives us the description of him in the scriptures. One day, we will all stand before him face to face. And we will stand before him individually, by the way. It's not going to be collective. We don't stand before God as Calvary Fellowship or American Christians or these kind of whatever label we like to put on ourselves. It's going to be individually. And we're going to have to give an account for our lives and what merit we have to be accepted by God into heaven. Now, listen, all roads lead to God, not all roads lead to heaven. There is only one road that leads from God to heaven, right? And it's not Peter's gate. It's not St. Mary's gate. It's not whatever. It's not Heaven's gate. That was the Hale-Bopp Comet guys or whatever kind of thing, or whatever the weird people, right? There is one road that leads from God to heaven, and that is through Jesus Christ himself. If in that encounter with God, face to face with the Father, Jesus does not stand up and say, that one's mine. I have died for that one. They have accepted me. If the Lord doesn't receive us unto himself through Jesus Christ, there is no explanation or hope or excuses we're going to make to try to convince God that we are right and holy. He has to stand up. He has to own us. He has to acknowledge that this one has been made perfect, not through their own merit, but through their faith in me and the sacrifice that I provided for them on the cross for us now near 2,000 years ago. Jesus himself said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, that no one comes to the Father but by him. That is not a verse I'm willing to cut out of my Bible. It feels exclusive to some. It feels restricted to some. To me, it just feels like truth. Because I'm of the full belief, full understanding that if this is up to us to try to figure out how to get to heaven, there is no hope at all. If it's religion, behavior, performance, doing enough good deeds to try to outweigh our bad deeds, right? I mean, I get stuck in my own head on a regular basis and try to have to figure out how in the world the Lord even deals with me. Why he puts up, even with the things I think and the things where I even go in my own head. Try to win that battle by doing a couple good things. There's no way, right? There's no way. The only way is if God comes down to receive us. Is if he provides the means by which we could be made right with him. This is not about religion. It's not about performance, right? If there's any law, it's to prove to us that we are not righteous. Whatever standards we hold, whatever truth is out there is to prove to us we can't do this on our own. The Sermon on the Mount, murder, anger, lust, these, of course, I fail in all of these things on a regular basis. But the Lord comes. There's still a narrow gate. That if you're willing, you can find it. But he says in verse 14, because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life. So it is somewhat narrow-minded. And look, Christian, it is also somewhat difficult. I know Jesus will say later, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And we like to take that and somehow or another turn it into some promise that life is somehow going to get better and easier, which is not what the word means. My yoke is easy literally means that my yoke is fit for use. Meaning that the course of your life has been laid out beforehand for you. and that there's a path for you to walk in. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be easy. It just means it's possible. Because your path was planned for you. There are good works that are foreordained for you. And there's a measure of God sitting on the other side of the yoke that will make sure that you can get all the way through the path, all the way to the end. But he doesn't say it's going to be easy. And somehow or another, we look at these, well, narrow is the gate and difficult is the way. We're like, that doesn't seem to make any sense. I thought when I got saved, I was looking for the easier life, right? Listen, I think sometimes when we share the gospel with people, you got to make sure you tell the whole story. I think sometimes we bait and switch people with the gospel. Hey, life is going to get better. Everything's going to get easier. Look, this is going to be so great. Hey, just get saved. It's going to be so great. And then 2 days after getting saved, they're like, there's warfare. There's like the whole thing got turned up. They're like, what's wrong with me? Nothing at all. It's right what should happen. I just want to tell you the bad news. I just want to make sure you only knew the good news, right? Sometimes it's more difficult. But here's the fact of the matter. Most of the things in life that are meaningful are difficult. The easy stuff usually doesn't matter. Usually doesn't mean anything. Right? Again, it's easy for me to eat ice cream. That's why I should do it less. Right? It's a very little benefit. Usually maybe some detriment even. We're not looking for the easy road. We're looking for the road. We're not looking for some kind of pie in the sky, some kind of hope that I'm a Christian, everything's going to... That's not what we're looking for. It's okay. It's okay. And it's okay, listen, it's okay. You take your walk with the Lord seriously. It's okay if you lose half your friends. Right? Broad is the gate that leads to destruction. A lot of people on that road. It's okay if life gets narrowed down. It's okay if life gets pretty specific. How many friends do you think Jesus had? Like real friends. I mean, a lot of people followed him. He had crowds, right? But how many friends? If you say 12, I think you're wrong. Probably not that many, right? Probably fewer than that. You consider Peter a friend? And on the night of your crucifixion, to hear him say, I don't even know the man. Let me be eternally damned or condemned if I even know Jesus Christ. To kind of see him bail out on Jesus like that. Right? We don't make the choice of our lives based on the crowd or the noise or what social media is posting or kind of what voice is being, yelled out the loudest or what's easiest or what we're going to get out of it. That's not what you determine the way, you determine your road to make sure that the road gets you where you want to go. Does the path lead to life or does it lead to destruction? Because the easy road leads to destruction. The devil wants to make sure that that road is as easy for you as possible. Your answers are going to come real quick on that road. Your help is going to come real fast on that road, at least at first, right? Why does it feel so easy if I just, right? Because it is. The enemy's going to make sure, try to get you down as far that road as possible. You come to the Lord, narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life. And look, and there are a few who find it. It's all right. It's all right to be alone, as long as you're alone with the Lord. It's all right if it's hard, as long as it's hard or difficult with the Lord. It's all right if it's narrow, restrictive. If you get to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it, then you're probably on the wrong road. You feel somewhat restricted, somewhat hemmed in by the Lord a little bit. I really would like to do this, and I don't have the freedom, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have the thing. I just kind of feel like I'm on this. Stay right on that narrow road. And rather, instead of trying to figure out how to make the road wider, why don't you figure out how to walk on that road faster? Why don't you figure out where the finish line is and try to get to it with all your might? Just pursue it. Dig into it. Right? I think one of the deceptions and the lies, I think, that really challenges us is in some ways that we can somehow be full followers of Jesus Christ and get the American dream. Somehow or another, we're going to get both of those things. When the fact of the matter is, for many of us, it's probably not true. Now, some of us are going to get blessed, right? But by and large, the people who get materially blessed, by and large, are probably the people who don't really care much about it at all. It's remarkable how that ends up coming around. People who really want to walk with the Lord, I don't take it or leave it, right? Have it or give it. Doesn't really matter. I don't care, right? Because that's not where the hope is found. That's not where life is found. It's not where the purpose is found. But we can look and say, I really want to follow Jesus. But I think this is one of those things we need to take some serious evaluation in our lives, because we can say one thing and actually be doing exactly the opposite. Hey, I'm on the narrow gate. I'm following the narrow way. I'm following Jesus, right? Right? Yeah. And be very much like on the road to destruction. And it's just too easy to talk. And the Lord wants us, He wants us to live it. And so it's just one of those things. We just have to evaluate for ourselves. Like, where are you at? What are you really pursuing? Where are the goals? Where are the passions? Where are the longings of your life? What do you really want? Right? Because it does seem in some ways you may be able to get off roads to get on the other one. Talk about once saved, always saved. I'm not getting into any of that this morning. But we do know that you can go from the broad road to the narrow road. And I would guess, at least from what I see, that there are people who are at least beginning the walk on the narrow road who seem to at points get off the narrow road and go to the broad road. It does seem as if it's an option. But it's a damning one. The fruit of it will not be good. You may in some ways be able to speed along your life and make your 70 better than it would have been otherwise, right? You live a nicer life, more money, more friends, more time, more outings, more social things, more people like you on Facebook, whatever that matters, kind of thing. But like you have all of this, right? And you get to the end, and it's the road to destruction. And therefore, then what good is it? Or to go the long, straight, narrow road. It's been difficult and lonely. And to get to the end and realize there's life here. The choice is really determined by the destination, not by the path as much. Where does it lead? And listen, for those of us, as we work through here the Sermon on the Mount, for those of us, what he's saying is, for those of us who have a passion to seek, desire to live for the kingdom of heaven, when you die, you actually get heaven. You'll get heaven, right? If our lives are marked by a desire for heaven now, it's probably an indication that we are ready for heaven when we die. But if our lives are really marked by being completely satisfied with the Babylonian system that we're a part of, then it just may prove to us that we don't really want heaven when we die. And that we're actually prepared more for something else. The true disciple, the true follower, the true believer, Jesus Christ, has heaven in the back of their mind, and it doesn't ever shake them. They can't ever get away from it. That reality always has to be reckoned with. That truth is always there. And in some ways, it overrides everything else. Let's live for that, all right? Let's live for that. Let's encourage one another towards those things, right? We need to figure out how to get more Babylon. Listen, this is the Titanic. The Titanic is sinking. This ship is going down. We don't try to figure out how to get more Titanic. The Titanic is sinking, right? We want to figure out where the lifeboat is, right? We want to make sure that we can survive it with the Lord.
All right, we learned that there are few who enter through the gate that leads to life because the entrance is narrow and the way is difficult. And Jesus said that He is the way, the truth, and the life, and that nobody comes to the Father except through Him. And choosing to only follow Jesus does make things less complicated, but certainly not easy. And as Pastor Mike said, the most meaningful things in life are often the most difficult. All right, that's all for now. Thanks for listening to the Word for the Valley podcast. So long, everyone.